Dr. Saif was one of the best doctors in the city of Newey. He gained popularity for his exceptional skills. He was a talented surgeon, and no one could match his interns in terms of surgical operations. People referred to him as Dr. Sharp Sharp. Dr. Saif could perform a cesarean section, delivering the baby in less than 10 minutes for the entire procedure. Even more complex surgeries never took him much longer. However, terrible things were happening in the operating room that no one knew about. Years ago, a friend named Emmanuel introduced him to the dark world of organ trafficking. Initially, he didn't want to engage in such illegal practices because he had built a strong reputation and didn't want to damage his image. However, the promise of immense wealth eventually tempted him to participate in these illicit activities. A black market syndicate revealed shocking demands for human ovaries. He needed them for controversial fertility experiments abroad, and the money he promised to offer in return was astronomical. There have been reports of an alarming increase in infertility rates among women who had given birth once or twice but were unable to conceive again. Strikingly, many of these women had been patients of Dr. Saif. Yet the villagers rarely connected the dots. Instead, they believed that the gods were angry with them and sought the counsel of native doctors, who would prescribe cleansing rituals and sacrifices. Despite their efforts, performing the rituals and making offerings, many women still found no change in their circumstances. The community, desperate for answers, continued to search for solutions, unaware that the real issue lay hidden beneath the surface of Dr. Saif's surgical successes. The cycle of blame and superstition only deepened, leaving countless women to suffer in silence as they sought to understand their struggles with fertility. Dr. Saif knew he was treading on dangerous ground, but the allure of unimaginable wealth blinded his conscience. At first, he tried to rationalize his actions, convincing himself that the people he was exploiting would never know. He continued to bask in the praises of his surgical prowess, performing miracles in the operating room while keeping his dark dealings under wraps. One fateful night, a heavily pregnant woman named Ngozi was rushed into the hospital. Her case was critical, and the nurses pleaded with Dr. Saif to step in and save both mother and child. Dr. Saif, ever the professional, donned his gloves and assured the distraught family waiting outside that everything would be fine. Her condition was really critical, and the nurses were already exchanging uneasy gekabes. But Dr. Saif, unbothered, continued. The surgery went well, and he delivered a bouncing baby boy. The family outside cheered as the news reached them. But inside the theatre, Dr. Saif's expression changed when he spotted something unusual, a pair of perfectly healthy ovaries, ripe for extraction. Besides, no one will know, he whispered to himself. With a deep breath, he made the incision and removed the ovaries, sealing the deed with practiced precision. He carefully stored them in a specialized container provided by the syndicate. Weeks passed, and Dr. Saif continued his double life, growing wealthier by the day. But his success came at a cost. Ngozi, who had been discharged from the hospital, began experiencing strange symptoms: weakness, confusion, and a persistent pain in her abdomen. Her husband, Emeka, brought her back to the hospital, demanding answers. "Dr. Sharp Sharp," Emeka barked. His voice was filled with anger. "You said my wife was fine after the surgery, but look at her now. What did you do to her?" Dr. Saif feigned innocence, promising to run more tests. But deep down, he knew the truth was bound to surface if he didn't act fast. The syndicate had warned him to cover his tracks, but the growing guilt gnawed at him. He insisted that they conduct all the necessary tests for her, and the results revealed that she might have suffered an infection during the ovarian extraction process. However, Dr. Saif chose to deceive them, claiming it was merely a mild case of typhoid fever that could be easily treated with antibiotics. He prescribed some medication, assuring them it would resolve the issue. After a few weeks of treatment, the woman began to feel better, and her family breathed a sigh of relief. They believed Dr. Saif had saved her, unaware of the truth lurking behind his diagnosis. While her health improved, the underlying issues remained unaddressed, leaving a troubling shadow over her future. Dr. Safe was determined to quit the dark world he'd been dragged into. After all, how much money was enough? The guilt of what he'd done weighed heavily on him, and he'd started losing sleep. Each operation haunted him. The faces of the patients he'd betrayed, the trust he'd broken, and the lives he'd put at risk. He decided it was time to confront the syndicate and walk away for good. The meeting was arranged in a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of town. You know the type, dimly lit, with the smell of damp metal and an eerie silence that made it feel like the walls were watching. Dr. Safe arrived, his heart pounding, his resolve barely holding. Sitting at a long table was Chima, the syndicate's enforcer, the kind of man who always looked like he was planning something sinister, even when he smiled. He had 2 bodyguards with him, big, silent men who didn't flinch, not even when Safe sat down across from them. "Dr. Safe," Chima began, his voice calm but sharp enough to cut through the tense air. "I hear you want to leave us." Safe nodded, his voice steadier than he expected. "Yes, I've done enough. I can't keep doing this anymore. It's wrong, and it's eating me alive. I'm out." For a moment, Chima didn't respond. He just stared at Safe, his expression unreadable. Then he let out a small laugh, not the kind that puts you at ease, but the kind that makes your skin crawl. "You're out," he repeated, as if testing how the words felt on his tongue. "Dr. Safe, this isn't a club you can just walk away from. Do you think you're selling ground nuts by the roadside? This is blood business." Safe leaned forward, his voice rising slightly. "Chima, I've risked everything for this. My reputation, my life. I'm done. You don't need me anymore. Find someone else." Chima didn't even blink. Instead, he signaled one of the bodyguards, who placed a folder on the table and slid it towards Safe. "Look inside," Chima said. Safe hesitated, then opened the folder. What he saw drained the blood from his face. There were photos, clear, damning evidence of every illegal surgery he'd performed. Images of him removing organs, packaging them, handing them off. Alongside the pictures were documents tying his name to the syndicate's network. Chima leaned back, folding his arms. "You see, Doctor, we've kept these as insurance. If you think you can just walk away, these go straight to the police, the press, and every patient you've ever operated on. Imagine what will happen when the world finds out what Dr. Sharp has been doing behind closed doors." Safe's hands trembled as he closed the folder. His voice cracked. "Chima, please. I just want to stop. I can't do this anymore. The guilt..." Chima cut him off, his tone cold and final. "You don't get to stop, Doctor. You belong to us now. Every cut you make, every deal you take is tied to us. Try to run and we'll find you. Try to fight and we'll bury you. Understand?" The room fell silent. Chima stood, signaling the end of the conversation. "Your next job is coming soon. Be ready." As they left, their footsteps echoing in the warehouse, Dr. Safe slumped back in his chair. His chest felt tight, his head spinning. He wasn't just trapped in this dark world, he was buried in it. And there was no escape route, not now at least. Dr. Safe hadn't seen Emmanuel in months, not since he'd started doubting his place in the syndicate. Emmanuel was the Dr. Safe colleague, the middleman who introduced Chima the syndicate to Dr. Safe. Dr. Safe tried and reached out to Emmanuel, asking if they could meet and have little discussion. They met in a quiet corner of a nearly empty bar. Emmanuel sipped his drink lazily, watching Safe with an expression that bordered on boredom, like none of this was new to him. But Safe's voice was urgent, his words spilling out in a rush as he recounted the confrontation with Chima. "Chima threatened to ruin me, Emmanuel. He has everything, pictures, records. He said if I try to leave, he'll expose me. You brought me into this, so I need to know what to do." Emmanuel leaned back, tapping his glass on the table rhythmically. "Calm down, Safe. You're acting like you didn't know what you were signing up for. The syndicate doesn't forgive, and they don't forget. You can't just walk away." "I didn't know it would come to this," Safe snapped. "I thought it was just about making money. I didn't sign up to live my life looking over my shoulder. How long would I continue with this?" I can't even sleep well at night." "Well, now you know how the world works," Emmanuel replied, shrugging. "This isn't a children's game, Saif. You're in the kind of business that comes with chains. Once you step in, those chains don't come off." Saif leaned forward and said, "I trusted you, Emmanuel. You told me it would be easy, no risks, no complications, but now I'm stuck. Tell me how to fix this." Emmanuel smirked, swirling the liquid in his glass. "Fix it? You don't fix things with the syndicate, you survive. You do what they say, keep your head down, and hope they leave you alone eventually." "That's not good enough," Saif hissed. "Ngozi is in the middle of this now. They're using her case to pressure me. I'm supposed to save lives, not trade them for profit." "Then maybe you shouldn't have taken the deal in the first place," Emmanuel shot back, his tone sharp. "Look, Saif, I warned you. I told you once you're in, there's no going back. But you didn't listen, did you? The money was too good, the life too tempting." Saif's frustration was mounting. "If you're not going to help me, why did you even agree to meet me?" "To remind you of your place," Emmanuel said bluntly. "And to tell you that if you make the wrong move, Chima won't just ruin you, he'll end you. They'll make you an example for anyone else who thinks they can step out of line." There was a long pause. The bar felt quieter now, like the world was holding its breath. "What would you do, Emmanuel?" Saif finally asked, his voice quieter, almost desperate. "If you were in my shoes, what would you do?" Emmanuel stared at him for a moment. "I'd play along," he said, "at least until I found a way to gain leverage. You don't fight the syndicate head-on, Saif. You find a way to beat them at their own game. Until then, you survive." The words hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. Saif nodded slowly, but inside, he wasn't sure if he could survive much longer in a game where every move felt like a losing one. Dr. Saif sat at his desk, staring blankly at the stack of files in front of him. The hospital had been quieter than usual today. 2 nurses had resigned earlier that morning, and the ones still around were becoming more distant. He had seen them whispering among themselves, casting worried glances his way. The tension in the air was impossible to ignore. Something was changing, and he couldn't shake the feeling that it was all spiraling out of control. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called, trying to steady his nerves. Matron Ifeoma walked in, her usual calm and composed demeanor now mixed with something else. Concern, maybe even frustration. She closed the door gently behind her, standing in front of his desk, arms folded. "Doctor, Saif, we need to talk," she began, her tone not leaving much room for argument. He sighed inwardly, bracing himself for what was coming. Matron Ifeoma was not one to beat around the bush. "I've been hearing things," she continued, her eyes narrowing. 2 nurses resigned this morning, and more are planning to leave. What's going on? This is becoming a serious problem. Dr. Saif shifted in his chair, trying to maintain his composure. "It's nothing, Matron, just personal issues. Some of the nurses are struggling to balance their personal lives with the work, and they decided it was best to leave. It happens sometimes, you know." Matron Ifeoma was silent for a moment. He could see she wasn't buying it. She leaned forward slightly. "Don't play games with me, Doctor. I know this hospital and I know the people working here. This isn't just about stress or personal issues. Nurses are talking. They're scared of something they've seen, something they don't know how to explain. And it's starting to affect the way they do their jobs." Dr. Saif was shocked. He had been trying so hard to keep everything under control, but now Matron Ifeoma was getting too close to the truth. He couldn't let her know the real reason behind the resignations. Not now, not ever. "Matron, I promise you, there's nothing to worry about," he said quickly, trying to sound confident, though his voice came out sharper than he intended. "People just get tired, you know. The pressure, the long hours, it gets to some people, and they feel like they can't keep up. That's all." Matron Ifeoma tried to convince him to spill the truth, promising she would never tell anyone and would assist him. But Dr. Saif never changed his statements. Matron Ifeoma didn't look convinced. She took a step closer to his desk, studying him carefully, reading him like a book. I've worked with you long enough to know when something's off, Doctor. You've built this place into what it is today. But if there's something going on here that's making my staff leave, we need to fix it. Right now, it's affecting the hospital, and it's affecting you. People are starting to notice. I don't know what's going on, Doctor. Safe, but you need to sort it out. I don't want to lose any more nurses, and I don't want this place to fall apart because of whatever it is you're hiding. Without another word, she turned and walked out, leaving him alone in the quiet of his office. Dr. Saif sat there for a long while, the weight of her words hanging in the air. The walls of the hospital, the ones he had built and carefully maintained, were starting to crumble, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. After that week, he resumed his usual work and even performed more complex surgeries. Then came that fateful day when a woman was rushed to the hospital needing an emergency cesarean section that had to be performed immediately. The woman arrived with her husband and other family members who accompanied them to the hospital. As she was rushed to the operating room, and just as Dr. Saif was about to enter, her husband, Mr. Mark, quick rushed to the doctor, pleading with him. "Doctor, she is all I have. I have heard many stories of how you perform magic in operation room. Please save her." "Don't worry, Mr. Mark, she will be safe." The surgery went well, of course. The baby delivered and the ovaries harvested as usual. In fact, Chima had given him a goal to harvest about 30 people's ovaries that week, so he was eagerly waiting to get surgeries to meet his task. Her husband and the rest family were happy and rejoicing for the safe operation. But something terrible had already gone wrong in the operating room. Shortly after the surgery was completed and the woman was stitched up, she began to suffer severe bleeding and died on the operating table. This was the first time in Dr. Saif's career that a patient had died under his care. It was bewildering. He couldn't understand how to explain her death when both mother and baby had been in good condition just minutes earlier. She hadn't died from complications of the C-section, but rather from the secret ovary extraction. For the first time in his career, Dr. Saif had lost a patient. "How do I face these people and tell them I lost her?" he thought to himself. He quickly instructed the nurses to cover her body while he retreated to his office. As he walked past the waiting area, the family was still celebrating the birth of the new baby, unaware of the tragedy that had occurred. The woman's husband rushed up to him, initially with a smile, asking about his wife. However, the expression on the doctor's face made him sense that something was terribly wrong. "Doctor, are you sure she's fine?" he asked again. "Yes, she's still under anesthesia and will wake up shortly," Dr. Saif lied. "But can I see her?" "No, not right now at least." The doctor proceeded to his office, his shoulders heavy with guilt and disappointment. He knew that the truth about this patient's death would eventually come to light, and he was terrified about the consequences. A few hours later, concern began to ripple through the waiting area. The family wondered why they had not seen her yet, even if she was still under anesthesia. Surely they should have moved her to the ward by now. The nurses, however, exchanged anxious glances, which only heightened their fears. Mr. Mark's mother-in-law, increasingly worried, decided to confront the nurses. "I want to see my daughter," she insisted. "Why hasn't she come out of the operating room? It's been 2 hours and we haven't seen her. Not even in the ward." The nurses offered her friendly smiles, attempting to reassure her. "Don't worry, madam. Your daughter's fine. We had to give her more sedative than usual because she was having trouble responding to the anesthesia. That's why it's taking longer for her to wake up. We'll bring her to the ward shortly. Just relax." But the mother-in-law felt a gnawing suspicion. The nurse's explanations seemed rehearsed, and she feared that something terrible had happened. She quickly picked up her phone and called her son-in-law, who had gone out to buy supplies for the baby. "Mr. Mark, we need your attention here urgently," she said, her voice trembling. "Is everything okay?" he asked, sensing the distress in her tone. "Everything is not okay. It's been 2 hours and I haven't seen my daughter. I don't understand what the nurses are saying. They claim she's still under anesthesia, but I just want to see her." "What? You mean my wife hasn't come out of the theatre yet?" Mr. Mark exclaimed, alarmed. "Yes, she replied, tears streaming down her face. The weight of her fears settled heavily in the pit of her stomach as dread filled the air around them. Before Mark could say another word, the network lost coverage. He began to panic. His car had recently broken down and was being repaired. He quickly urged the mechanic to speed up the work, insisting he needed to go somewhere urgently. Once the car was fixed, he immediately rushed back to the hospital. He burst into the room and found everyone in tears. Tension filled the air as he tried to understand the reason for their distress. "Mama, what's wrong? Why is everyone crying?" he asked. His mother replied, "I want to see my daughter. Where is she? We haven't seen her since the surgery and the nurses are acting strangely." In a fit of rage, Mark stormed into the doctor's office. "Doctor, Saif, where is my wife? What have you done to her? Why is everyone crying? Where is she?" he demanded. Dr. Saif took a deep breath. "Calm down, Mr. Mark. It's not what you think, but somehow we lost her." "What? My wife is dead? How could you hide this from us?" "I didn't know how to say it either. This is the first time I've lost a patient during surgery. I don't know what happened, but she had a blood clot in her lung and suffered an embolism," Dr. Saif lied, attempting to conceal his shame and wrongdoing. Mark locked eyes with him. "I want to see my wife." They led him to where her body was covered, and he fell to the ground in tears and grief. At that moment, he couldn't comprehend what was happening. It felt surreal. However, the death of Mark's wife marked the beginning of the end for Dr. Saif. As for Chima, he was finished as well. Stay tuned for the next part of this story, where we will reveal how Dr. Saif and Chima were caught, exposing their heinous deeds, including the involvement of the mother-in-law, who was also part of the organ selling scheme.